Thanks very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to, in comparison with the two previous presenters, be quite traditional, almost cold-faced in my approach. In fact, when I was first invited to speak here, I immediately was reading one of the AUT magazines, and the editor was saying how passé PowerPoint was, and I thought, oh God, here we go. And so I apologise in advance. I've got a little presentation here, but it's not as flashy. It's a bit better than the previous one, but not the one before that. Thanks, Rod. So what we're really talking about here, and what I can throw a little light on, is the kind of media people you're dealing with. Business journalists are unlike any others. They're likely to be quite conservative, more considerate for the facts, and they seek out authoritative information and present it to a specialist audience. So you can probably wipe out about 99% of all other media if you put that up against it. And the other problem is that most of the readers of the business media know more than the journalists about any particular topic, and if you get it wrong, you're likely to find a lot of those readers can be highly litigious, or at least argumentative about what you've done. So what you've got to do before you meet one of these journalists is make sure that you have done a bit of reading about what they have written about, what they're likely to know about, maybe what they don't know about, and then you might be able to interest them in your story. Now, PR people are paid to do that kind of job. In fact, we've got one of them chairing this session, and they're useful if you can afford them, and full of advice, and often they're previous journalists, they just want to make a little bit more money. But, and this is the proviso, or the caveat, make sure you check out their reputations too. You can ring me. Most business journalists are cheated, if not every day, at least once a week, by one of these people. In fact, it's happened to me today already. And so some of them are on I hesitate to use the word blacklist in a university institution, but they're poison and they'll get you nowhere. So, now I was told my presentation was too full of words and points and stuff like that. So I've put this little diagram in here just to show that in the business media, when you're writing serious stuff, you can use a little diagram. And that was one we used recently. So that's just, I've got one coming up which is far more interesting. Ooh. Now, a little bit about the difference between news and opinion, because when you're talking about business, there's often a mix of the two. Now, business journalists don't like spin, and they do their best to be tricked, or not to be tricked rather, or strung along with particular stories. So make sure you don't hide anything from them, and don't avoid the tough questions either, no matter how dumb they might appear. The reason they're dumb, I alluded to earlier, is they may not know anything about what you're talking about. In fact, it would assume that it's best to assume that they don't know anything about your particular business. They may not have even heard of you. So don't be scared of providing the most basic information, and don't laugh at the very obvious questions that often you will get. They're looking for offbeat anecdotes, and so don't be afraid to spice up your story a little bit, because when they're writing their story, it's those little anecdotes that provide the colour. If you're writing an opinion piece, make sure you can detach yourself far enough from it to read it as though it wasn't you, and that you actually could agree with some of the points being made. So my advice is don't make assertions. You're not a politician, and you're not making a speech. Business journalists don't in fact like politicians at all, and they don't view journalism as a kind of blood sport, which does go on in politics. In business, reputation is everything, and reporting on business is at the other end of the spectrum from political pontificating. At the risk of, I won't name the newspaper, you can probably pick it if you're from Auckland. This is the kind of rubbish that is the top of their website, and this is in their premium Saturday newspaper. Until I saw this, I was looking for some evidence, I must admit. I'd never read any of those stories. Now, this really is a bit of advice on how to get your message across, basic rules of communication. I won't go into them in any detail. The the counting machine tells me I have got very little time, and time is very important to me and to you, so don't waste my time, and I won't waste yours. People want to know about your background, they want to know some funny stuff, they want to know how you got where you are, but remember, you're not trying to get votes, you just want to get your information across through some other party, so treat them with respect. As I say, produce a few good quotes for them. This is a very basic one. It's not even original, but it's very, very good. And the PR people will tell you all about this, so just read this one. And I like puns and alliteration, all that sort of stuff, so we try and replicate this sort of thing for our readers. So finally, a little word, and I'm not here to respond to what that big challenge that Rod made, but the word sustainability, as you've heard in all the previous presentations, is a little bit of a problem. It's a problem for journalists, and business people don't like it very much, and neither do journalists, but one thing journalists do like are profits, so that was quite good, and they put that above all else. That makes them different from other journalists, and to them a sustainable business is one that makes a profit. So if you've got a profit, it's worth talking about, and then you'll be able to get across some news. And a good news story, and we've heard quite good examples of this all afternoon, is that it's someone or something that's different, it's unusual, and it's going to change the world. So that's my comment, and I've got 20 seconds. So that's not bad, is it? Met the deadline.